Well, hey folks, how's it going today? I hope you're all doing really good. Well, we're going to do some fret work here. We're going to install some new frets in this Strat neck here. This belongs to one of the viewers. He's got a nice parts caster that he's put together, and he had sent the neck away to have it refretted, and whoever refretted it really didn't do a job up to his standards, so they had actually sanded the fret wire and the fretboard. There was big scratches in it. So anyway, I pulled the frets and I sanded the fretboard and tried to get a lot of those out. There's still a couple. I mean, it's a parts caster. The body's relic and everything, so it's not a big deal. We just don't want to be able to feel that stuff is all. So I cleaned that up. I put some Thompson's water sealer on here too. Couple coats to seal it back up. If you want to check that out, I do have a video of all the fret removal on this and everything as well. Go in my playlist, go into fret jobs. There's probably a lot of info that I'll forget in this video, but really the point of this video was this. When I was getting my tools out and getting set up to do this, I had this kind of flashback of when I first started doing fret jobs. And I was a nervous wreck. I didn't know what kind of fret wire to order. I was just lost, basically. So I'd like to go over a few things, on that note that may help you guys out if you don't know what you're looking at, you're not sure what to order for wire, that kind of stuff. And I'll show you how to put them in here in a minute too. Okay, so we're going to put some medium wire in here. I get mine from Bitterroot Guitars on eBay. I don't know these people, but they've treated me very good, and I'm not endorsed by them or anything like that. But they always ship my order fast, and they've never messed it up, and it's good quality stuff. So, it's probably $13 for a set of fret wire. It's not that expensive. Now, if you look close, they give you these dimensions in thousandths of an inch. You got, like crown width, and they'll give you the tang depth, width, barb width, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of hard for me to see it through the camera here, but so I just want to go over some of that with you real quick. Now, obviously, this is the crown. This is the side that your strings ride on when you're playing. So they'll give you the crown width, the crown height, which is the underside of the crown where it touches the wood to the top of the crown. This is your tang that hangs down and goes in the fret slot. So you need to know the depth, the width, and you also need to know the barb width, because those barbs stick out wider than the tang. So what you need to know is this. Are my fret slots wide enough? Are they deep enough? Is this the type of wire that I want to use? So maybe the first thing you ought to do is pull a piece of fret wire out of your neck. And again, I've got videos on that in my playlist, how to do it. Pull one out, measure it with a set of calipers, and, see what you got. You can buy a set of, dial calipers. I don't see mine right here. But you can buy those really cheap, like at Harbor Freight or online. You really should have a set so you can take accurate measurements here. Now, you can stick a guitar pick down in here or a set of feel gauges and get the width. Even, stick a pick down in there, make a mark, and get your depth. But a set of gauges helps a lot and at least gives you some sort of a reference. So, what I usually do after I get the fret wire out, I take my X-Acto saw. Again, eBay, Amazon, $10, $15, something like that. You get a couple blades with it. Now, these blades are 10/1000ths of an inch thick, so they're quite thin. Now, you can set that right in there without doing any sawing at all. So I know it's not going to make this wider or anything like that. Now, I'm not trying to make these deeper either. So what I like to do is just take this saw run it through the slot very lightly, and I kind of tip the tip down. So as I'm running it, I can feel any knobs or jumps or bumps of glue that was left in there. I'll even do it on the way back. I'll just kind of drag through, and I felt just a little bit of glue there, and you'll even see it come off on the end of the saw blade. So again, oh, see, I can feel a little bump of glue right there, and I'm just going to try to flatten those off. Not trying to make this deeper. It's plenty deep enough already. I've already measured it. Now, the reason I'm getting those out of there is because a lot of times that can cause a high fret. After you pound it in, you hit that big bump of glue, and the fret wire just doesn't want to seat all the way down in there. And then when you run your fret rocker across it, well, I don't know what that, oh, it was my spray. Anyway, sorry folks, when you run your fret rocker across it, you'll have a high fret. So it's really good to spend time getting this prep work done, get all these cleaned right out, so you can just drag your saw through there, or a toothpick or whatever you want to put through there. Just make sure there's no glue piled up on the ends or in the middle. That should feel just as flat as it can be right there. Okay, so once you get that done, what I like to do then is take a little triangle file here, okay? And what I like to do is just break the edge very lightly again. I'll put a little pressure down, and I'm going to do this on every piece of, not every piece, but every fret that we're going to install here. And what this does, okay, it just kind of chamfers the edge a little bit. And the reason I'm doing that, first of all, it helps the fret go in a little easier, and there's less chance that it's going to break something out when this goes in. And, you know, it's not a bad idea. It helps the guy that's going to take them out next time too, really, honestly. So that's a really good thing to do. You know, you don't have to see this V-shaped thing or anything like that. Just breaking the edges off, really, and putting a little bit of chamfer on them, okay, on each side. And that really does help a lot for the installation and extraction. Okay, so I've tried a piece of fret wire in one of these slots here. I just pushed it down in with my finger. I just want to see how far it's going in before it starts to hang up a little bit. And that's about right there. I'm good with that. I know it's going to go in, and it's going to hook in there good. I'm going to glue these too. But there is one thing you got to pay attention to. The tang width, okay? Now, if this tang width is too wide, and the, you know, as far as the fret slot, if the fret slot is narrower than the tang width, which it needs to be, or the frets are going to fall out, right? But it can't be too tight, because what will happen, I mean, you'll probably be able to drive them in there, but what happens is you actually add length. So when you force that in, you force that one in and that one, eventually the neck is going to start to have back bow, because this is going to start to grow. Even if it's a couple thousandths of an inch every time, you can actually force back bow into it, which is what they call a compression fret job. And I've done this on guitars without a truss rod that have a lot of forward bow. You use wide tang frets to actually take some of that forward bow out and flatten it, okay? Or even bring it to a slight back bow, so when you string it, it'll pull it in straight. Now, again, you don't want that so tight that you got to use a splitting maul to pound them in, or a hydraulic press. You just want enough so you can push it in and it's tight, you know. So that takes a little bit of technique and skill. Again, you know, it's not a bad idea to take an old beat guitar and just practice pull 3 frets out, put 3 in. Even if it's the, same frets, at least it'll give you some idea how this works, and you won't like make mistakes on your good guitar. Okay, another thing, you want to make sure you get all the stuff out of that fret slot in there. I got a little shoe shine brush that I like to use. A vacuum cleaner works good too. Whatever you got, air hose, blow them out. Get that stuff out of there so you know it's not going to pile up under the fret tang and lift the fret up. And also your glue will stick to something besides just sawdust and finger gunk that's down in there. So, that being said, once everything's clean, you should be able to go. Make sure your fret wire has a radius to it. And, like I said, what I usually do is I'll glue these in. I'll pound them in with a fret hammer. Sometimes I'll press them in too. And like I said, I have videos on that as well. These ones I'm probably just going to pound in. They should go down in there very nice and hit perfectly. So, again, I may go back and press a couple troubled ones, but you can press them all. Some people don't. Some people don't even use glue. They just pound them in. I like to glue them in. I find that frets are glued in usually stay without lifting on the edges a lot better than, fret wire without it. You got to remember, this wood's still going to expand and contract and do what wood does with moisture and humidity. So I like to glue them. Like I said, I think it helps, but that's up to you. Okay, let's put one in here. I'm using some white glue here that's really similar to Titebond. Done a lot of fret jobs with this, so it works really good and it cleans up really easy. I recommend, if you're just doing this, you can use super glue, you can use fish glue, hide glue, Titebond, whatever you want to use. If you're just starting out with this stuff, I honestly recommend using like Titebond or even, fish glue, because you got a lot longer work time. Super glue can make a real mess if you don't know what you're doing. Get yourself a good fret hammer here. You have a plastic side, rubber side, and make sure the fret wire is started in there, straight. You don't want it tipped one way or the other. If you can help it, just kind of press it in a little bit, start it down in there. We'll start the ends. Okay. Now you still got a hump in the middle, right? When we pound this in, or you press this in, it's going to drive the barbs outwards, and that's going to really hook this in hard, and that's what we want. Now when I drive them in, I usually, for some reason, come up with this 5-hit pattern. It's like, I start on one side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do that same thing every time. Now let's wipe that glue off and just take a peek here. Okay, so you can see we got the wires down in there nice and tight. No gaps. The ends aren't lifted up. You got to check every fret when you do this to make sure they're down in there good. Now that looks good to me. So the next thing I'd like to add, if you're gluing these in, this is my personal thing. I do not trim these off right now. I'll do that tomorrow. I let those completely dry for 24 hours. That's just my personal thing. And I understand if you're in business, you might be using super glue because it's a lot faster and you got to get this done and get paid. Totally understandable. But this is my method. And I usually have multiple projects going anyway, so I can do this, put this to the side, put something else on the bench, and keep working. Okay, I like to point this out too now. There's some chip out here from the previous fret job. Some pretty good dings. There's a couple here on this fretboard here and there. And what I'll do is I'll put this fret wire in, I'll let that dry. we'll clip it off, and when I get to the point where I'm getting ready to dress these off, I'll take some either gel or thin super glue, and I'll fill those, and then take a razor blade and scrape up to the fret wire, and those will usually disappear quite nicely. Now, some of them will get covered with the fret wire anyway, so that's just my method on this. Some guys will fill those first. It's gonna work either way, so however you'd like to approach that is fine. All right, we're gonna put another one in, or 3. So again, I'm just gonna drive both sides down, make sure the fret wire is going in there straight. 5 cracks across it. Rid of the squeeze out. I'm going to take a peek, make sure that fret wire is down and the underside of the crown is touching the fretboard all the way across, out on the ends. That looks good. So as you can see, most of the work is in the prep. Ow. Oh, don't hit your fingers either. That's not good. Okay, so we got both ends started in again. Little hump in the middle. Same thing. Now, when your fret wire is long like this, sometimes you'll hit out on the end and it can bend down over a little bit. This didn't do it in that case, but I just wanted to mention that. I've had that happen too. It's not a big deal. You can usually get away with it, and it's not going to affect the playing or anything, but just be aware of that when you're doing it, folks. Boy, I did hit my finger pretty good too. That's not a very big fret hammer, but that's all you need. Okay, again, just do this one more time. You can see we've got an arc here. So I'm giving them a couple extra cracks just to make sure. And really, how you can kind of gauge if you need to give it a few more wraps, especially if you're using glue. If you hit it and you see squeeze out come out, you wipe it off, you hit it again and more squeeze out comes out, then you know you're not there. Now, I can't even make that do it because it's totally seated and looks really good right to the fretboard. Another thing, you could take a piece of really thin paper, like, that your strings come in. Check it, see if you can stick it under the fret wire. If you can't see it that good, that's always another little trick I like to use. Now, I don't cut these off, like I said, I let them sit 24 hours, and the reason is, when you use your cutters, and you start kind of wrestling this stuff, you're not going to probably do that, but, you may do it unknowingly, or if you had rounded bullnose pliers, you should have flat cut, flush cut. If they're rounded and you grab onto this, as you squeeze it, it can actually pull the fret wire a little bit, and it can also loosen it. Now, I have had that happen when I cut these off right after I pounded them in. So I like to let them sit and let that glue do its thing. Tomorrow morning I'll come out, I'll flush these up, and I'll start filing everything down. So basically that's the nuts and bolts of it here. And it's really, not a hard project to do. The biggest thing is knowing what these dimensions are, how to measure these, fret slots, width, depth, all that kind of stuff. And, fret wire choice is another thing. Maybe kind of familiarize yourself with some of your own guitars. If you're at a guitar shop and you pick a guitar up and it feels really nice, look at the fret wire. Ask, maybe the guy that's working there may even know what it is. So if not, you can always go home and kind of look up the manufacturer and the guitar and maybe find out what they use, so you could do that to your own. I guess that's pretty much as far as we're going to go on this. Like I said, I've done a ton of videos on fret jobs, but I did want to go through some of this basic stuff. I mean, you know, anybody can do this and put glue in the thing, right? That's easy enough. But, you know, it took me a while to figure out if the fret slot was too tight when I tried to start the wire in. There was a lot of things that I did not know, and that's the truth. So that's really why I'm trying to share some of this information with you and kind of the techniques that I use to do this. Now, like I said, these are down nice and flush and tight to the fretboard, and that's really the end goal. You don't want anything sticking up, especially right now when we have glue in there and it's going to dry like that. Well, what happens if you do make a mistake and you got one that's sticking up and it's glued? Well, take a soldering iron, heat it up, pound it back in, or use a press. I've had to do that myself, you know. Like I said, this is stuff that I learned the hard way, really, but if I can pass this along to you and maybe help you guys out, that really is the goal here. Like I said, I didn't have this information when I first started doing it, so I had to really pay attention and really learn this fast as I was doing it in real time. So, you know, if you've never done it, take an old guitar, pull 3 or 4 frets out and try it before you experiment on your holy grail Stratocaster or Les Paul that you love so much. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, then, you know, there's always the option to take it to somebody that does it professionally and has done many of these. I would say it'll probably take a dozen fret jobs before you learn all the little intricacies of doing this stuff. You know, different necks are different. When you have a bound neck, that changes the game too. I do have, again, videos on how to do that as well. So feel free to check out my playlist, and hopefully this helps you guys out. So I'm going to get back to it here, and I'll pound the rest of these in, let them dry like I said. Tomorrow, we'll see how it goes. I may actually shoot a video of this next phase on this neck, and maybe I can show you guys a few more little tricks that I've picked up along the way on how to take care of the rest of this process. Well, thanks for watching, folks. I really do appreciate it. And Uncle Joe, I'll have your guitar back in order here shortly, within a couple days, and got a few more projects to do for this viewer that owns this guitar and neck. So I think he's going to like this fret wire. I really like this medium. It feels good, plays good. I don't push the strings down out of tune when I'm playing chords so much. I play light gauge strings too, but even with tens, I've refretted some guitars for some guys that play with tens, and they really like this too. It just feels good. Yeah, it'll probably wear out a little quicker than a real tall fret, but it doesn't feel like railroad tracks, okay? That's really my biggest thing with the height, okay? So just, you know, keep that stuff in mind. You really take your time, spend your time taking measurements, putting some thought into the fret wire that you really want to use. Do you like jumbo? Do you like tall? Do you like, you know, thin, low, that kind of thing? So like I said, I've been using this medium on acoustics, electrics, lots of different applications, and it just works out very well. Okay, folks, well, hopefully I didn't miss anything. I'm sure I did. I'll try to recap, like I said, tomorrow, show you how to clean this up, how to get the sharp fret ends taken care of, whip the little corners off with a fret dressing file. And, you know, that should complete the process. We'll go over it with a fret rocker again and make sure that's all good. Make sure your neck's straight when you do this too. It's not a bad idea. Okay, folks, we'll see you soon, probably tomorrow, hopefully, and we'll get this one back together. And I still got to do a little bit of cleanup on some of this chip out. I mean, you don't have to. If it's a relic guitar, you really don't, but there's only a few really bad ones, so I think I'll fix them. The rest of the neck looks nice, so see you tomorrow, folks. Be good. Okie doke.